Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of Conversations. We try to bring relevant topics to discuss every time on this LinkedIn Live Conversations. And today we're going to talk about another such topic, the topic of ESOPs and the various trends and insights that we are seeing from the current companies in the world of ESOPs or equity compensation, as they are commonly known. And we have Rahul Somani with us. Rahul is the head of operations and leads the consulting and managed services practice at ESOP Direct, which is part of the Capita family now. Welcome, Rahul. How are you doing?
Thanks, Srikanth. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. Great. Great to have you and look forward to this engaging, discussing on this engaging topic. I think just to set the context, right, I think ESOPs, I think everyone knows now, right? I don't think we need to introduce ESOP as a instrument. I think it's being used both in listed and unlisted companies very widely, as we are seeing. But I think whenever we talk about ESOPs, there are a lot of aspects associated with it, right? And that's where I think sometimes there's maybe more awareness required, and then also there are a lot of use cases on how one should go about deciding on some of these aspects, right? And there I think insights from the industry really helps, right? And that's what I think we at Capita ESOP Direct do actively and engage with these companies. So we'll like to decode a lot of those aspects today in this discussion. So Rahul, maybe before we delve into the insights itself, it will be great to hear from you on how did we go about getting these insights in the first place. Can you talk about the survey and the methodology we did? Yeah.
Sure, Srikanth. And thanks for the introduction and a nice thing. And what you said is absolutely right. Now, ESOPs is a very common, thing, and the people want to know about it. It's a like a flavor of the flavor currently. And even in the startup community or listed, wherever you go, you will find this. It is like a fascinating word actually. The people wants to know more about it, and as we go deep, we come to know that okay, it is a very. It's also yes, it is like a common thing, but it is also a very deeper sense into that there are many aspects to the thing. There are many things. So for considering this part, actually we, together with Capita, actually, we thought of that doing the ESOP survey. So we did that. So this is our 10th edition actually of the ESOP survey. So generally we do it in a interval of annual or 2 years gap. So that we come to know that okay, where the industry is moving, what the new things companies are trying, and this survey is also very important because it is after COVID, and we just want to understand that what the companies has done post COVID as well. So if I go to the in the ESOP trends part, actually some of the methodology we surveyed around 300 companies. So the respondents are around 300 companies, mix of listed, unlisted, and Southeast Asia. So this time in our survey we have even included Southeast Asia trend. This is the first time and with the help of Capita, actually we got around 86 companies from Southeast Asia which has responded to our queries, and the remaining are from the India geography actually, the entities, and a mix of listed and unlisted, where listed companies are approximately 90, you can say, and the remaining is unlisted companies. So we conducted this survey over a period of 3 months, and generally the respondents are like CEOs, CHRO, or head compliances and all, because this is a very I will say the very topic which is very close to the heart of the key employees as well. So the respondents are mostly those people, and it's a great insight. We have seen many trends changes, so which we will discuss during this conversation.
No, lovely. Thanks for highlighting how we go about doing it. So it's actually data-backed, insights where we are, surveying these companies across these geographies. Again, we see various insights across geographies or across listed, unlisted companies as well. So that will be very useful to discuss today. Thanks, Rahul, for that initial, introduction on how we approach this, and we're doing it for the last 10 years. So there's a lot of time series information that we have as well of how these trends are evolving. So let's decode these aspects, various aspects of ESOPs, and what the report indicates, right, one by one. So first, let's look at the why, right? I mean, the why people go for equity compensation. There might be some key objectives with which they are implementing these instruments, right? So what have you seen from an objective point of view? Why are companies implementing it, and what are the trends over the time that you have seen?
Yes, Shrikant. Yes. Yes, the first question whenever the companies implement, the first question comes in the mind that why we need it actually and what
Right.
objectives this ESOP is going to serve to us. So there are different objectives. I will just highlight few objectives and then I will move to the trend part actually, that where we have
Right.
seen the trend moving, or what are the main objectives companies are doing. So if I start with retention and reward, which is the main means objectives companies do. So retention is more like because the companies wants to retain the employees. That is very, and everybody now knows that this is a very special asset class and you need to retain employees. If you want to move to that growth trajectory, you need to retain the key talents for the growth purpose as well, and rewarding
Right.
them is a secondary thing, because the retention and reward go hand in hand. If you retain the employees, you need to reward them as well with that growth. So if you are achieving the growth, you need to reward employees as well. So this is one of the objectives. Then we have seen some of the companies, we call it as an employee ownership, where the companies align their interest with the employees as well. So we call it as an employee ownership, where the shareholders interest, the management interest and the employees interest aligned with each other actually. So some of the objectives, the people do it because of the employee ownership as well. Attracting talent, very important in today's era, because you need the talent to grow your thing. Means only the current people may not able to do it. You need to attract the talent from outside. Even not in India, it is a geographical thing that maybe sometimes you need to attract talent outside India as well to come to that growth path. So these are some of the objectives of any company who is implementing ESOPs. Coming to the trend part, that okay, how what the ESOP trends are about, and what are the main objectives we have seen. So we have seen that the retention and reward actually is the main means we the what the companies has responded that is the main objective, that they want to retain employees. That is the first thing, and then they want to reward to the employees. So this is the main objectives we have seen. And means it is very similar to listed and unlisted company actually. So it is not very different that the unlisted companies or listed companies has a different objectives, because you need to retain talent, whether you are a listed companies or you are an unlisted company. You need to retain and reward them. So these are the two
Right.
main objectives we have seen in our ESOP trend this time, that these are the primary objectives why companies
So should I just share that one of the slides? Maybe this will maybe you can just talk about this as well if you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So pretty much aligned with what you were just saying. Yeah.
Yes, Shrikant. So this shows absolutely actually how the things are going. So these are some of the objectives broadly we have classified when we asked respondents to response, that what are your main objectives. And if we see both in listed and unlisted companies, the retention and reward at both places are the main objectives, where the company sees that okay, we want to retain employees, that is first thing, and we want to reward them also, that they are with the company, they are for the long term. So we want to reward them as well. So this is, yes, so this is means as, and it is like when we also go and discuss with the companies, we also come across the same thing, which has been reflected in our survey as well. So this is not means I will say very not change from what we have thought of, but yes, the responses are in line with our thoughts.
Got it. Great. So wonderful. So that's clearly reward and no retention seem to be the main reason why a lot of companies adopt equity compensation in the first place. So moving on, now looking at what are the trends we are seeing from a coverage point of view, right? So whom do the employees, companies cover, right? And that's also a dilemma in the minds of a founder who's setting up his or her first ESOP policy, or even a large listed company as well, right? They also have a dilemma of whom all to cover, kind of a thing, right? So would you want to share some key insights on that aspect as well?
Sure. So it's a yes. So this is a very important question, and Shrikant, what you have asked, that what is the coverage, and very important the initial thought actually, because once you know your why, you need to know whom to cover actually, because this is for the, you need to know, okay, whom I want to retain and whom I want to reward actually. So this is a very linked thing there. Yes, the coverage generally relate to the objectives actually, that the what objectives you have considered, and that coverage go hand in hand with those objectives. So there are, I mean, so I just go with the different things that what the industry are doing, and then I go to the trend, that where the trend is moving. So industry, so there are both the things are very prevalent in the industry, that they cover the key employees, where they say talk about that, okay, these are very we are on the high growth trajectory, and these individuals are very important, these are the key potential people in the organization. The people are also covering the broad based, where they want to the align the interest of the whole organization with the shareholders and the promoters. So there are both that things which are prevalent. But in this year we have seen that the companies are moving more towards the broad based plan. I mean, yes, what we have seen in earlier days, people are more bent towards the key employees, but this year we have seen that the companies are also moving toward the broad based plan. They are going to even not only the senior management, they are going to middle and as well as junior management, covering majority of the population under ESOPs, because they say that it is like aligning the everyone's interest to the shareholders interest. So this is something is the trend. When respondents had responded to this, we have just gone into a little bit more analysis, and we have seen that yes, this is something which is now coming up. And even we have seen that the promoters and the management even wants to cover more employees under ESOPs, making it a more broad based plan for aligning everyone's interest in the same goal. And this broad based plan, I will say, is more aggressively going in the unlisted part. Listed companies still little slow towards this trend, but unlisted companies are moving, means they, we have seen a major shift in this actually, that where they are covering small number of employees, now they are moving towards covering more employees under the ESOP plan. Shrikant, you are on mute, I think.
Yeah, I'm just sharing that schematic, I mean the diagram as well, where we are seeing in the unlisted, right? So maybe you can highlight that again, yeah. Where
Yes,
there's a
okay.
larger shift towards like larger pool sizes and hence coverage kind of a thing, yeah.
Yes, absolutely right. So if you see the listed part, still it is like we have seen some trend in the above 50% and all, but it is very slow, like 2-3%. But if we see the unlisted companies, the promoters, the management are more shifting towards the broad-based plan, where the key thing is moving towards 11 to 20% of the population, or 21 to 30, and even 31 to 40%. So this is something is a shift from covering to key employees to covering more broad based plans actually under unlisted companies.
Wonderful. No, that was quite insightful, and you can see the shift actually. Across all the other buckets, it's kind of moving. So more and more, I think ESOPs are being covered with. I mean, more employees are being covered with the ESOP scheme. Wonderful. That was quite insightful, Rahul. So next, let's move on to the instrument choices as well, right? Again, this also has seen a lot of changes, and also jurisdiction-wise or whom to cover. All of these factors determine what kind of instruments to choose. So, what are you seeing here, Rahul, and any time trends across the time series as well that you are seeing shift?
Sure. Yeah. What happens actually, that because there are different instruments available into the market, so it also linked to the what you want to achieve, and also the limitations that means the companies see that, okay, what is the limitations available to me, that okay, I can go with this instrument or not. Because every instrument there are some pros and cons. I will not say this instrument is better than that, because it depends upon the scenario, it depends upon the objectives, it depends upon the available resources companies has. So general trend, if we see into the market, and broadly I classified instruments. So there are some of the instruments like ESOPs, RSUs, SARs, which are more equity based. Then there are contribution plans, we call it as a ESPP, then we have a phantom plans and all. So these are some of the things. What we have seen at this time, and not only in listed but unlisted, combination of instrument is like a very much in trend. So people are going with ESOPs, but they are blending with RSUs as well. So it is more like a combination of both the instruments, where I want that the employee should get the future appreciation. They should be with the organization, but also I want RSUs for linking it to the performance as well. So this is like a combination. We have seen both in listed and unlisted. So earlier, what we have seen in the more in the listed scenarios, that the company generally go with one instrument, and they thought of that, okay, this instrument will achieve my objectives. But now we have seen that the combination is working much better, because you have the pros of both the instrument actually, where one instrument can help you to retain something, to retain employees, to achieve one objective. The other instrument can help you to get the performance thing as well into same. And even from, if I talk from the employee point of view, it also helps them in both the cases, in all the scenarios, whether means how the economic activity major means, I will say, the macroeconomic activities is going on, it also has impact on the instrument. So if we see, the combination is increasing much. Coming to the
Right.
unlisted company side, so I just want to add here, Shrikant, around the exercise price as well, which is very
Right.
included to the
Correct.
instrument, that what would be the exercise price. So even
Right.
in unlisted companies, we have seen that the companies are moving from the market price to RSUs or face value grant actually, or the nil, or if
Mhm.
you are outside India, then it is like a nil price for the employees. So that is something, is a change we have seen, because it gives a sense of things to the employees, that okay, I am there, I if I take the growth to that part, my benefit will be much high folded. And it is not just depends upon the valuation at in a interim level actually. So we have seen that trend, that the companies are moving from market price market price or FMV grants to RSUs grants. So that is something is we have seen. The face value grants is in a increasing trend. So this is very much important, because it goes with the instrument. If I go with a face value grant, it is like RSUs. I link it to performance and everything. If I'm going with a market price, it is more like a time based and retention based thing actually for the company. So trends are very much in line with what even we thought, and what we have seen in the macroeconomics, where majority of the unlisted companies are also on the growth track.
Got it. So that's very, very interesting. I think both on the instruments and the exercise price. And we are seeing a lot of companies exploring a combination of instruments and strategies to achieve different objectives. Like you just mentioned, the upfront attraction, then the overall retention, and also rewarding the performance on top of it. So that's very interesting. And maybe the companies start with one instrument, and then as they evolve over a few years, they will then have broad base obviously, and then also have more instruments to cover various objectives. That's what. Yeah. Wonderful. So now the other question I had, I think you already touched upon the exercise price part, so that's wonderful. Now there are some other aspects around equity compensation also, so let's quickly kind of reflect on each of them one by one. So the first one is about the route, right? And I think ESOP trust also draws a lot of questions actually from a lot of practitioners. When should one go about, and who is it for, and things like that. So what are you seeing from a trust, and linking it to the whole secondary market point of view as well? So you want to talk a little about ESOP trusts and the trends around that?
Yeah, Shrikant. And actually, you have touched a very important point, actually, because this is something is a very trend. Surprise trend we have seen, and I will not say surprise, because we are in the market, we are aware of that part. But even more of the companies are evaluating as well, where we first thought of that they will not go. So I go first on the implementation thing, where the companies are using whether the trust route or the direct route. In a listed scenario, actually, I'm because this trend has changed more in the listed companies, where the companies are moving from the direct to the trust route. Yes, there are different objectives when we have asked respondents that why you are moving it, and yes, there are something like administrative hassles. Then it is easy to do a secondary acquisition. You can cap your dilution, but this is a trend which is not there earlier. Means it is not there earlier when we have seen very small companies are just moving doing ESOPs through trust. Majority of the companies are doing through ESOPs. But as we can see the trend that the companies wants to cover more employees, the implementation route is means I will say that is the trend is changing. And if you see, it's like double actually. So it means it's a major change we have seen. And yes, the when we discussed with the companies, when we discussed with the respondents, the things come up that yes, it when you go with a broad based plan, you need someone to administer it, and the trust is the best way to administer the part. And it helps in the capping the dilutions as well. So we linked this particular thing as per your, means you asked me the second question about that how source of equity is going, whether it is
Right.
a primary issue or a secondary issue. So this trend has also linked with this with my other trend, which is called as a, means whether the what is the source of equity. And we have
Right.
seen that the listed companies are more going to the market to buy securities and give it to the employees, which is called as a secondary or market purchase. So if we can see there also, it is like almost double the ranges. The more companies are going towards the secondary acquisition. So and we have seen that it helps in capping the dilutions to the promoters and the management as well, and giving the same benefit to the employees. So both these trends go hand in hand. If we see that the trust route is also increasing, and the companies are also moving from the fresh issue of equity or dilution to market or secondary purchase. So yeah, this is something is a very important point you have touched upon, and this is a major trend we have seen in our survey this year.
Wonderful. Yeah, actually, this can be clearly seen, and all this is mainly for the listed companies, right? Just to caveat that, Rahul, right?
Yes.
Whereas I think a lot of unlisted companies, we they start with a direct approach, and then maybe as they go towards IPO is where they might consider having trust, and right? Yeah,
Yes, Shrikant, absolutely right. Because in an unlisted scenario, actually, the companies generally because trust also has some their own means yes, it helps in the administration, but you need some compliances around trust actually when you go through a trust route. So in an unlisted company or in a startup, companies wants to go direct with to avoid that compliances in the initial year. And yeah, as you said, they are closer to the IPO when they are planning that okay, now I'm going for the IPO in the next 1 year, 6 months. Companies evaluate the trust part as well, because that helps them once they get listed actually. So this particular trend we have seen in the listed companies. The unlisted companies, from the implementation point of view, yes, 90% companies go with the direct route actually rather than the trust route. So there the trend has not changed much, and which we also consider that go with the objective that at the initial years in a series A, series B, series C, you don't want that compliances thing, more compliance burden on you at the initial year. But once you are settled, you are at the near to IPO something, yes, you can go with that compliance thing and the trust route as well.
great. Thanks a lot, Rahul, and all the audience who have tuned in. You can use the chat for asking your questions, and we'll get them answered. I see Rushali has asked a question. Maybe we can take it a little afterwards as we kind of go further into the discussion. So maybe Rahul, now that we discussed about the trust and the source, do you want to also talk about the ESOP pool sizes? That's also a matter of debate, right? And we have seen all kinds of ranges, sub 5% range, say, like, we've seen, 15, 20% also in some of the unlisted companies as they begin. So what are your trends, insights that you're seeing over time?
Yeah, yes. So Shrikant, actually, this is this question is very close to the promoters, because this is like a dilution. So this is very
Right.
close to the promoters, and whenever you go and talk to them, actually, this is the first thing that okay, how much is the dilution, and whether it is sufficient, because they also think from the employee point of view that the reward should be sufficient. So it should be like a balanced thing between the part. Like it is not only that okay, I give higher dilution, so it may not be, and I can't be a very low dilution because it will not give the adequate reward to the employee. So this is like a very balanced approach we need to follow for the dilution purpose. So if I talk about the major trend or the thing we have seen in the unlisted company here, because the listed companies, because the market cap is much larger, you will find not much on the, it is like 0 to 5% dilution is enough there actually, because the market cap is much higher. But in
Yes.
unlisted companies, when we combined it, you can see that the 5 to 10% is something the companies are now looking as a ESOP pool in an unlisted company. Yes, it is change over, means if you dissect this particular graph into series A, series B, series C, yes, the dilution means in the initial year you need more ESOP pool, then it comes down. But when I combine this and show in the trend part, on an average, people are moving towards the 5 to 10%, and which is like that they want to keep more kitty aside for the employees, because they know that this is one of the very important compensation thing in for the growth purpose. So this is something, if you see from the last 2 years only, from 21% it has jumped to 55%. So this is a major jump actually, and people are keeping aside that thing. We have asked them, and the companies has responded that yes, we know that this is a very important aspect in the compensation structure, and we want to keep that kitty aside to grant it to the employees. And so this is a very healthy trend. And if you link it with the coverage, it also goes with
Yes.
the broad based plan actually. So that is something is
Correct.
very important, and it is like, it is not something that one thing is happening, other is not happening. The trend is showing that it is linked to each other, that okay, I'm increasing my coverage, so I need more pool, so I'm going for the increase in pool as well. So it is not something that one thing I going in isolation. These all are linked to each other actually, if you see that part. uh,
No, very true. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Rahul. Yeah.
Sure. And from the source of equity, actually, yes, I
Yeah.
talked that the people are go with the more with the direct route, but we have also seen that sometimes when you are in the investment stage, uh, the investors wants that some kitty needs to be given by the promoters from their own holdings. So those things we have seen, and which is also responded in our second graph. Actually, if you see that 15
Correct.
means it has risen from 15 to 40%. This is more depend upon the deal and negotiation and the investors' point of view. Actually.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and also it's basically the subset of companies that have been surveyed here. But then yes, we are seeing that trend also is what you're saying, right? It's earlier, I think, unlisted companies, the pool of ESOP used to come from the fresh issue, but then there are cases where it is also now coming from other sources. But
Yes.
I think it's overall good news for employees, right, Rahul? Both on, I think, both on the coverage side and on the pool size, we are seeing, and as you rightly said, it goes hand in hand, right? But the larger the
Yes.
pool, the promoters can have more employees covered. And now that everything is becoming people oriented, I think ESOPs are playing a good instrument to drive that ownership, and hence we are seeing these trends. Right.
Yes, yes,
Wonderful.
absolutely right. So what means, yes, so these, and yes, what you said is it is good news for the employees as well, and it is also good for the I will say management, that they have a compensation structure where the growth is one of the very important aspect of ESOPs.
Exactly. Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So let's just move on. I think in the life cycle, right? So there's a lot of questions also on the frequency of grants, and we are seeing very insightful trends, over a period of time there as well, and also quantum. Now that's also hugely debatable, right? How much to give, right? So any
Right.
insights you can share on that? Maybe also from the survey, and maybe Rahul also personally you have, engaged and dealt this for hundreds and thousands of companies. So you can reflect that also. Yeah.
Sure, sure, Srikanth. And so definitely means this is very important aspect of any structuring when we are going for a ESOP structure, that the timing of grant is very, very important, and also that how much to grant, because yes, you can decide the coverage, you can decide, but what is the optimum benefit I can give, where which is like good for the employees as well, and it is not like very means high expense on my pocket, because as you know now the ESOP is one of the expenses as well in some of after this India's. If you grant ESOPs, there is some hit
Correct.
to your P&L as well. So it should not be like a very big item in my P&L, and it should not be very, I mean, a small amount, or I will say to the employees that they will not get motivated because of this. And so this is very important. So coming from the frequency side, actually, the trend is very similar to last time, that it is an annual grant, but this time the joining grants also increase. So this is also linked to the attraction of talent, that when they attract a talent, they give a joining grant, which is also important aspect we have seen this time from the company's responses. So annual grant is still popular because it annual grant helps you to create that motivation every year. That is very important. It gives the flexibility also to the company, that okay, they can change the coverage, they can change the terms. So that is a beauty of in an annual grant, that you can thought about the next grant prior and
Right.
give it to the employees. And as I mentioned, the joining grants is also important, because now attracting talent is very important, and this is one of the tool to attract. So we have seen that the joining grants are also increasing from structuring point of view. uh,
Right.
Coming to quantum, yes, this question is very close to even the employees think as well, that okay, how much quantum to be granted. It is also close to the management as well, that it should not be disproportionate, it should be in line with industry and all. So what we have seen that the range at the most critical employees are like 100% per annum actually, so which is like a seat. So if just I want to give little bit more in the example side here, that suppose
Right.
somebody is earning 1 million dollars actually, suppose for example. So he is looking for approximately 300 to 400% of the CTC over the period of 4 years, so which is like 100% per annum. We generally call it as 100% per annum, depending upon the life cycle of the ESOPs. Yes, now it mix to the annual grant as well. That's why I say that when you grant annually, you grant 100% each year, and it goes to the 400% over the period of 4 years. So this is something is the range what we have seen, but this is for the most critical employees. And uh, whatever that, and that's why means the CTCs are so high, and the quantum is so big at the senior level. Majority of the options are granted to CEO and CXO. So still there is some
Hmm.
concentration there actually at the key level, that this is going on. But yes,
Yeah.
so we have seen that yes, the key employees, the critical employees are getting majority of the, or some 100% quantum to your CTC, and they are also getting around most of the options from the grant side, so which is like a 44% goes to them, and the remaining goes to the
Hmm.
other team. So this is but what we have seen, that this trend is continuing from last means it is like a benchmark thing, where you see that LTIP should add up to my current cash thing actually. That is
Hmm.
something, the expectations from the employee side as well. And if I see in the unlisted company, yes, it is very similar. I mean,
Right.
even earlier we have seen that unlisted companies go more with the one-time grant, but now they are also moving towards the annual grant, and with a similar type of quantum they want to grant. Yes.
So very, very insightful in the sense that, and this is for the most critical employees, right? So obviously
Yes.
there's a whole range. I think obviously the allocation starts from a few percentage of the compensation to most critical might get very comparable to their whatever that cash component is, that is close to 100%. And yeah, seeing similar in both listed unlisted kind of
Yes.
trends. Wonderful. What is insightful also is like the quantum, right? Most of it is in the CXO or the senior leadership that you see in the listed company world. In the sense that a lot of companies get professional CEOs, and they end up giving a huge chunk of options or RSUs to them, is what we are
Yeah.
observing, right?
Yes, absolutely right, Srikanth. And that what you said is right. It is the range. So I have talked about the most critical employees, but yes, the range
Correct.
starts from 25% to 100% per annum.
Exactly, right. And yeah, in unlisted, as you can see, sometimes it's also more than 100%. Again, there are other nuances, maybe people taking cash pay cuts,
Yeah.
etc., which might also determine how much ESOPs they will get, right?
Yes, absolutely right. So we have considered it from the market salary actually, but
Market
yes, if
salary,
yes,
yes.
but if there is a cut in the pay, or if he is joining on some other terms and conditions, these things will change actually, and
These
we
will
get more.
automatically.
Yes.
Correct, correct. So I think there are some relevant questions. I'll obviously cover all the questions that we have got, but some relevant questions on. So Mittal is asking on what are some of the best practices for issuing refresher or top-up grants. This is more for the annual grants, I guess. Yeah. So
Yes.
anything you want to add? Yeah, there.
Yes. Yeah, hi, Mr. Mittal. So actually, the top-up grants are generally used for the purpose of that if the performance has been achieved more than, I mean, I will say that the performance that what the employees has achieved is more than what the expectation. So people give it as a top-up grant. So there are two things. One is the annual grant you decide for each employee, and if the employees are performing much better than what is the expectation of the management, generally companies give top up grant as well, that okay, you have performed well, we have achieved the budget, we have achieved this much valuation, I will give you some top up grants, which is more like a you can call it as an additional bonus to the employee. So this is something is very very I mean, yes, it is trending, but top up grants are generally linked to the performance actually, that okay, or unless you want to top up with some price decrease and all, so that I'm not talking here because that is a totally different subject altogether.
Yes, yes. No, there are some more questions. I'll take them, but let's just complete these discussions on some of the key elements. So we talked about frequency of grants and quantum. Let's also talk about vesting and exercise period. Now, they are also kind of associated with the grant itself. So what are the trends you're seeing in both the vesting and the exercise period elements? Yeah.
Okay, Srikanth, if I see the vesting and exercise period is for the listed companies are very, I mean, it has not, the trend has not changed much. Yes, we have seen
Mm-hmm.
that the people are now moving towards the little bit shorter actually. I will not say there is a much change, but little bit shorter. People are moving from 4 years to 3 years, but I will not consider it as a major change because that is something is also depends upon when you started this talk and when you have actually implemented the ESOPs plan. But the vesting period, which what we have seen is reduced little bit from 4 years to 3 years period in a in a listed company scenario. Sorry. And the exercise period, yes, the exercise period generally is between 2 to 4 years, but it also depends upon the other structure that means if you have an RSU plan and all, you have a lesser exercise period. That depends more from the tax compliances point of view as well. But if you ask me the general trend around vesting and exercise, little bit very similar to the last time.
Right.
The movement is from 4 to 3 years, like they want to give benefit in a lesser period of time than the 4 years period. And but the exercise period is remain same, where they want to give sufficient time to employee to exercise, which is like 2 to 4 years
Got it.
in a
Yeah.
listed company, and very
Got
similar
it.
in an unlisted company as well. So if you ask me, yes, the unlisted companies also following very similar trend, 3 to 4 years, but there the important thing you can see is the exercise period. The people there's a, I will say there is a divided school of thoughts between the companies. Some wants to give shares to the employees, so they allow exercise before any liquidity event. And some
Right.
of the companies think that okay, it is an extra burden on the employee, he need to come out with the cash and all, I link it to some liquidity event. So there is a divide of thoughts. Both methods has pros and cons, I will not go into that detail, but that is
Right.
something is also it's one of the thing where the company or the respondents are divided between their thoughts. And even when we discuss, when we go for the structuring purpose also, both methods has some pros and cons, and it more depend upon the objective actually and whom you are covering. That's
Right.
why that is that one of the major decision points actually for one more thing I just want to highlight here, Srikanth, is the related to
Yeah.
the unlisted company. In a listed scenario, it is like an annual vesting. Companies vest every year. Most of the companies vest every year. But in an unlisted company, people are also means looking at the quarterly vesting as well, because they want to see that the employees are getting something in a regular interval. So after a minimum period, people are also evaluating the quarterly vesting as well.
Right. Wonderful. There's one related question from Nikhil on any insights on performance linking versus time based. I think you've kind of covered, and it's also mentioned in the slide that companies are preferring, I mean, their performance. Earlier, I think it was mostly time. So people are now increasingly also looking at performance. How do you see that, Rahul? Is that more like a top up? Like there is some grant which is given as time, and then there is more of performance on top of it to reward. How can you just elaborate a little more on that and your thoughts?
Sure, Shrikant. And thanks, Nikhil, for this question. Actually, very important. So as I reiterate myself that we talked about the combination of instruments. So earlier people are more towards the ESOPs, which is more like a time based, following the retention. But when you give a deep discount, when you give the instrument at face value, the RSU plan, you link it to more performance, because there the growth comes into the picture. Because if you ask me, in an RSU plan, employee has no risk. So if he has no risk, he need to show it in a performance that okay, I performed well, the company has moved to the next level, and I'm eligible to this. So that's why the performance thing is moving. In an ESOP, generally companies linked it to the individual performance, very lenient, time based, and all. But in an RSU plan, the companies are more linking it to the company performance or the department performance, where they can they can take the whole group to the next level actually. So that's why the performance things are changing more towards the company performance rather than the individual performance actually.
Yes. No, that's very interesting, and I think thanks for that question, Nikhil. Like RSUs or deep discounted ESOPs means that giving upfront reward, so you better earn it through a performance is what you're basically saying. So that's
Yes,
very
yes.
insightful. Yeah. There are a couple more questions. We'll take it towards the end. I think one last point, Rahul, I think we didn't cover was how to communicate the value per option, right? How do you calculate and then communicate the value per option? So what are the trends you're seeing? There are various methodologies with which you go about calculating and communicating this value per option, right? So, do you want to share something on that?
Yes. So this is the, I mean, so actually the questions asked by when you actually decide everything, quantum and everything, and now comes to that okay, for giving that much quantum, how much numbers will be translated, and like it is like a more like a valuation expert. Then you need to see okay, what is the value, and also we so this time we thought of that putting this question. So this is the first time we put it into this question, that how you decide the value per option, because you want to grant suppose $1 million options value to someone, but how you convert it into options. So there are different methods actually, like fair, means listed companies like fair value, intrinsic value, future appreciation, and all. And what we have seen, the listed companies are more systematic. They use the fair value, like the statistical model like Black-Scholes binomial, for deriving the value per option, and accordingly they distribute the number. They also consider the future appreciation, like okay, I want to grow with a 20% CAGR, then this much is the benefit the employee should earn. So this is something is very important. In an unlisted company, fair value, yes, it is good, but what is surprising for us, and not a scientific method, is something like a market price at the time of grant, which according to, means if you ask me as a consultant, is not a very scientific method, because you are not considering the future risk, you are not considering anything related to the future growth, you are not considering what is the cost to the employee if you are granting ESOP. So just dividing with the market price and decide the number is not a scientific or correct method according to me as a consultant. But we have seen that many companies are using, and this is just a ease thing, but I will not say that this will achieve their objective, because it does not reflect into what value they want to transform to the employee. It may be like you are transforming higher value to the employee, or maybe lower value to the employee, depending upon the instrument you
Hmm.
choose. So this is something, but yes, this is the trend actually we have seen. So
Correct.
this is the first time we introduced this question actually in our survey.
Yes. No, very interesting. And we also see the difference between listed and unlisted, as you rightly mentioned. So that's wonderful. Great. I think those were some of the questions. I mean, some of the aspects I think we wanted to cover. But there are some very interesting questions. I think outside of the trend itself. So I think let's cover them, and maybe you can briefly touch upon, and we invite you to engage, and we can definitely have a separate conversation if we need a more deeper discussion. But for one question, Rushali is asking is can RSUs be issued to advisors or consultants, or ESOPs can be issued only to employees? So what is your take? I think both RSUs and ESOPs, I think is the question there. Yeah.
Okay. So Vaishali, right, Srikanth?
Rushali, yeah, Rushali.
Vrushali. Hi, Vrushali. So, Vrushali, actually, this is like a compliance thing, actually, whether you call it as a ESOPs or RSUs. If it is a equity based plan, and if you are based out of India, actually, you can't give it to consultants and advisors. Because we need to follow the Companies Act and SEBI, so and they are very clear around the employees part, that who become the employee. So if they don't fall in that definition, you can't give any equity based compensation. I will not go with ESOPs and RSUs. Then we need to maybe a similar plan we need to prepare in a cash thing or something. So this is very particular to Indian regulations. But yes, if your company is incorporated outside India, and or just I'm giving some few countries example like Singapore or maybe US, you can cover the consultants. Only thing your scheme should allow this, actually. So there the things is different. So whenever, if you are planning to cover advisors or consultants, please check your local regulations where the company is incorporated or which company shares you are giving, actually. Otherwise you need to move to some cash based plans, actually. Maybe the structure will be same, but it will be cash based.
Right. And when you say cash-based plan, it is like a typical stock appreciation right or a phantom plan, which is settled in cash, basically. So there's no share involved.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Great. So you lose the ownership thing, but yes, it is settled in cash and.
Yes, you still get the economic value, but yeah, you're not like a owner, or you don't eventually become a shareholder kind of thing. Yeah, right. Wonderful. And Varsha is asking a basic question, like to share the process of issuing ESOP in a listed company. So I know that's but how do you want to answer that? And maybe we can touch base with you, Varsha, separately as well. But Rahul, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So Varsha, actually, I will take these questions from 2 points. One is like designing the structure where the decision points, whatever 14, 15 decision points required in an ESOP plan, you need to do a brainstorming. You need to decide on each decision points, what are the pros and cons. That is something you need to take care. From the compliance point of view, if I come in a listed company, it's a legal process. You need to take approval from NRC, then board, then it will go to the shareholders. Once shareholders approve, you need to go to the stock exchange from in principle approval, and then NRC can make a grant. So actually you asked a very broad question. So that's why I given in both the case the examples, because something you need to do before going to NRC, and the NRC and the board is more like a compliance thing. So maybe we can discuss offline this question, because there are different things involved there. The valuations, the accounting, everything is involved there. So we can discuss it separately.
Yes. So definitely, Varsha, do reach out to us, and we can definitely help you set up both. I think all the elements that Rahul mentioned, we can help you on getting you set up to issue ESOPs in your company or any other listed company for that matter. I think there's one, I think a little more philosophical question from Sheetal, and this is more in the case of unlisted, actually. She says, unlike listed companies, ESOPs and startups don't have ready markets, where sale can happen. So employees see these ESOPs more as a substitute for cash compensation for annual growth, and doesn't motivate them more. These ESOPs in these startups, they will be beneficial only when there's some restructuring, or maybe IPO in some cases, right? So I think the larger question is, how do we make ESOPs attractive to employees of startups? You're right. I mean, Sheetal and maybe Rahul, in this context, we actually did a LinkedIn live a couple of weeks back on ESOP buyback, liquidity, and ESOP surrender programs. So Sheetal, that is exactly where organizations like Capita are trying to bring a marketplace approach where, of course, listed companies, it can be traded on an exchange. So you get kind of unlimited liquidity. The moment you vest, you can exercise and sell them in the market. In unlisted, of course, that is not the case. But more and more companies, Sheetal, I think in the last 2 years, I think, largest number of employees have done ESOP buyback programs or surrender programs, right? And typically that happens in the Series B stage, or beyond, whenever the company has achieved some element of growth and, looking to be a stable company in some sense. And that's where they are doing it either through their own cash flows or, or secondary programs as well. And that's where Capita, we help you, have a marketplace where, we work with the promoters, founders, and some of the shareholders and run these programs and also find secondary market liquidity by going to potential investors in these companies. So yes, these are things that are evolving, and we aim to innovate and pioneer some of these new avenues where you can find liquidity. But Rahul, do you have anything to add also? Like again, a very interesting question on here. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Shrikant, and I think you covered the majority thing. So actually, Sheetal, two important things here in an unlisted company, because you don't have the market available. So first thing, and this is my personal view as well, that sometimes the value creation is much higher in the unlisted company rather than the
Right.
listed company, because the multiple growth is much higher in an unlisted company rather than a listed company, because you will maybe grow by 20%, 25%, maximum 30% in a year. But in an unlisted company, it will be 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, depending upon in which industry you are. But the important thing from the, I will say, the soft skills here, one is the regular communication to the employees that, okay, this is the value creation happening, which is very important. Regular communication to the employees. The LTIP or ESOP plans are not a one-time plan. I just do it and close it. You need every year, whenever something happening, you need to communicate to the employees. That is important. Second thing, which Shrikant has stressed, liquidity, very important, because after 3-4 years, if you set some example with the liquidity, that okay, it may be internal, external, depending upon how the company is doing, but if you create some liquidity, it will automatically create the motivation to the other employees. So once you create that example, people see it. And in the last couple of years, if you see in India scenario as well, many startups are doing liquidity programs. Either it is an internal liquidity, creating external liquidity, depending upon scenario, depending upon circumstances, but very important. So you need to take care communication, you need to take care of the liquidity, very important aspect in an unlisted company.
Right. Yeah, and just to add some numbers to what Rahul just said, Sheetal, like I think last 3 years, close to $1 billion in startups, and this would be close to, I think, 60 startups. Some of them might have repeated as well, and they're also doing it annually, bringing a sense of certainty in the minds of the employee also who are joining. So these are also great attraction and retention methodologies that a lot of companies are adopting. So yes, I think we are much better than I think where we were 5-7 years back. But of course, obviously, I think unlisted company will never be like listed, where you can get instant liquidity, I guess, Rahul. So, and perhaps that is not the intention also, like you just said, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because again, the value creation takes time, and you have to earn that period, and then hopefully you'll unlock a lot more value. So that is our take, Sheetal. Thanks for that question. That was quite insightful, sharing your experiences, kind of a thing. And we hope things will keep getting change and keep becoming better for employees. And that's precisely where we are, right? Capita and ESOP Direct. We want to bring the equity revolution to every equity owner in this part of the world and also globally, right? And that's where we feel instruments like ESOPs and all its variants help drive that ownership, drive that value creation, and then ultimately what I keep joking, right? Yesterday's ESOP holders become entrepreneurs or investors eventually. So it kind of is a very virtuous cycle of value creation for the economy. So Rahul, yeah, sorry, you wanted to add something?
No, no, Srikanth, I think you have given the absolute example, so that is absolutely right. And the things what you have said, that the employees become entrepreneur after getting ESOPs, and then they know the value, and they just need to show the same examples to the employees when they're starting the thing. So it's a
Exactly.
cycle.
Yeah. And maybe they would be the ones who will be more friendly with their structuring and design of their ESOPs in their companies. Yeah.
Yes.
So Rahul, we covered a lot of topics today. Anything we missed or any nuance or even if it's not in the survey report, anything you want to add that you are seeing from the ecosystem before we close?
Shrikant, actually, I mean, this is not covered in the survey, but just want to means discuss around that part, that there are different decision points. Whenever the companies are looking for the ESOPs plan, just go through those things actually, because very important, because you are deciding some compensation structure to the employees, and if the objectives has not met, it will be difficult. So take care of those decision points, see what the industry is doing. Maybe what industry is doing may not be correct for you, but knowing the things does not means it's good to have the knowledge that okay, the industry is doing this, but I have done this because of these changes actually. So don't just blindly follow the industry, but you should be aware of the industry practices as well actually. So that is something I suggest to the companies. Yes. So in this thing, we have, I mean, in this webinar and this question hour, we have covered more on the structuring part. But
Correct.
once you implement, maybe you can take care of the administrative thing as well. So where maybe we will come out with one more thing where we can help you from the administrative point as well.
Exactly, which is also equally important. The compliance is involved, finance elements, ESOP accounting, valuations, and things like that. We can definitely cover. Do let us know, indicate your interest on some of these topics, and we can come with more knowledge sessions. But very, very important point, Rahul, you mentioned. Obviously, these trends indicate a directionality, an observation on how the ecosystem is, evolving. But again, I think we like to believe that every company have their own recipe for success, and we will definitely help you get to that recipe. Understanding your objectives, understanding your culture, and then suggesting a suitable solution. And that's where we have Rahul's team who do this day in and day out. So do reach out to us on any help with regard to ESOPs, even if you're conceptualizing your ESOPs for the first time, looking to look at the performance and then make course corrections, and then also thinking about liquidity, which Sheetal also importantly asked. We can literally sit with you and create a liquidity program and aim to run it on a frequent basis as well, right? So that's all that we do at ESOP Direct Capita as well. So do reach out to us. On that note, Rahul, it has been extremely enriching for me as well. So thanks for sharing all the insights. Any last words before we leave?
No, so it's like I think we have covered everything, and as I said, I mean it is it's like more on the structuring part, and definitely the administration thing needs to be also considered. And reach out to, I mean, we are there, we can help you out wherever required. And as Srikanth has already covered that part, that even we are in the, I mean, every equity matters for us. That is something is we are looking for. So
Yes.
definitely means we look after that. Okay, the scheme should run properly. What are the things available? What things you should have in the scheme which makes it more successful? Definitely, we can help you in that.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rahul. On that note,
Thank you.
we really want to thank all the audience who have been asking some very interesting questions. We look forward to engaging with you further as well. So definitely you can check out our website, capita.com, get more details and reach out to us if there are any ways we can help you, support you in your equity compensation journey, right? So on that note, Rahul, really thank you for sparing time, sharing all those insights. And thanks to all the audience for joining us today. On that
Thank you.
note, we can call it a day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Srikanth. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. Bye.